Hi guys, so this is basically like a follow-up video on the ventilation tutorial I did. I asked you guys if you guys wanted the beginner-friendly video and I got a lot of okay, yes, I want, okay, yes, I want. So this is basically the first video of the series of the beginner-friendly how to ventilate tutorial. So basically what we're going to be talking about here is everything that has to do with nothing. I don't know if everything has to do with nothing will be able to enter this video, but I'll explain as much as I can, basically. So I'm going to be teaching you guys the four major types of knotting, and I'll give you the advantages of the knotting and the disadvantages of the knotting. I'll give you my preferred knotting technique. So then you can decide that okay, this is the knotting I want to use, and this is knotting I do not want to use. So if you know this is something you're going to be interested in watching, then let's go. So basically, the first thing you're going to be doing is to be prepping your hair. When you're prepping your hair, you're basically taking in bundles if you're using bundles and attachments if you're using the attachment, and you're cutting it from the root. You have to cut it as close to the weft as possible just so you can retain the length of the hair. Then after cutting it, this particular hair, they've already used it for bonding before, so it had some like traces of bonds at the end. Yeah, you now have to take out all those traces of bonds because it will glue the strands together, and that's not what you want. Then you have to remove all the short hairs. I got a question from my last video that how many grams of hair do you usually use to make a closure? My dear, you can't really state because some hairs have more short hairs than the other. Like you can see now, all these short hairs I'm brushing out of them, they are going to waste because if I use them for the distance, for the closure, some strands will come out long, some strands will come out short. All these strands that are coming out as short hairs, they are all wasting. So it depends on the short strand you have in your bundle. But back to what I was saying, basically after you're sure that you've taken out most of the short strand, you can't take out everything, because if you take out everything you're going to lose a lot of hairs. But just take out the ones that are extremely short. Once you're done taking it out, you're folding it. Like I said earlier, you're not folding it into two equal parts. If you fold it into two equal parts, you're going to lose a lot of length. If they give you a 30 inches hair, you fold it into two equal parts, you're going to get a 15 inches closure. So most times you have to fold it like 3 inches. So one side is short, one side is long. That way, if they give you a 30 inches hair, you can give a comfortable 27-inch closure. So this right here is how to fold it. This size is still even longer. I still reduce it further to, let's say, like 2.5 inches. It's not really 3 inches per se. You can make it 2.5 inches, you can make it 3 inches, but just know not to fold it into two equal parts. Are you seeing that the length retained more when I folded it into one part short, one part long? But just know that the short parts should not just be very, very short. After which you're to hold it and twist it. I want you guys to take note of how tightly I gripped it and how very small the hole is. I didn't hold it loosely because I don't know if you remember, but there are still short strands that you don't want to get loose. So the first knotting I'm going to be talking about here is single knotting. So one thing you need to know about single knotting is that it is the easiest knotting technique for we ventilators. Like if you're a ventilator, you just tie once and you're good to go. It's the easiest knotting technique for we ventilators. But single knotting is, first of all, let me give you the advantages, the pros of single knotting. Single knotting, first of all, imitates the hairline. I don't know if you noticed, but knots for your hair, I didn't wear a wig for this video just to show you guys, illustrate a lot of things. For your hair, you don't see the knots of your hair. You don't see where your hair starts from. That is what a lace closure is aiming to achieve. It's aiming to achieve your hairline. Do you understand? So we don't want the knotting looking very bulky. So single knots basically tiny this thing once, and it looks very, very tiny, and it's almost non-existent. It's as tiny as it could possibly be. So basically, single knotting is a very small type of knotting, and for the pros of single knotting is it is very natural looking. Yeah, it's very, very natural looking. And then another thing to know about single knotting is that it is faster for ventilators. But the cons of single knotting, the disadvantages of single knotting outweighs the advantages of single knotting by far. The first disadvantage of single knotting is that it will pull. See, single knotting, I don't know if I have anything single knotted here, but basically single knotting, something like this. If you go like this, single knotting has pulled off. Like single knotting literally pulls off by one drag and it's out. Single knotting is that weak, and it's so weak that it cannot be bleached. If you bleach a single knot, you will lose all the hairs. It will just be pulling and pulling and pulling. So single knotting cannot be bleached. It cannot go through rigorous heat process because it's going to pull. Like single knotting is so fragile. If you're washing single knotting, it has a way of coming out from the bottom if you don't take time. Some people, they wash their clothes and they're washing it like it's clothes. I don't know who taught you how to wash hair like that, but okay. But basically, if you're doing single knotting, it's going to pull out from under. I feel like I want to start a clip of how a single knotting that's pulled out looks like. But basically, single knotting is a very fragile type of knotting. I'll still teach you how to do single knotting, but I do not advise anybody to use single knotting. you can learn single knotting, but if I'm teaching people physically, my physical classes, I don't teach single knotting. I just go straight to do double knotting. So if you know double knotting, you can do single knotting. But basically, I don't advise anybody to use single knotting. At this point in time, you're good to go and it's time for your ventilation. First of all, you hook the pin to the net in the direction you want the head to be, after which you take your strands. Mind you, there's a way I scatter the strands so it will be easy for me to pick the number of strands I want. Then once you scatter the strands, you're able to pick the number of strands you want. Then you can control the number of strands you're going to be taking. That's the first thing I want you to note, that once you pick it and grip it tightly, you're supposed to scatter the strands just a little. That way, if you want to take one strand or if you want to take two strands, it will be easy for you to pick. Then you're going to grip the strand, then you're going to take it under and out. Emphasis on under and out. And mind you, I didn't just take the strand and just make it very long, because if you make it very long, you're going to lose the short strand. I want you guys to keep on remembering that there's a short strand you're trying to protect there. So if you make it very long, you're going to lose the short strand. So when you pick it, you're taking it under and out the net. If you just try to grip it without take it out without taking it under and out, you're going to rip the net. I don't take it under and out, you're going to form like a V shape, after which you take it under the hairs, then you twist it. Take it under the hair and you twist it, then pass it through the hair. That's just basically like the English explanation of it. I want you guys to note something. This your ventilation pin. Look closely. You're going to see like a latch at the end of the ventilation pin. This latch is not there for being their sake. It's there so as to grip the hair. So once you turn the hair, it's supposed to go to the end of where the latch is. It's supposed to turn and go to the end of where the latch is. That way it's easier for the hair to stay on the pin and you can take it out. So if you notice now, as I'm turning it, it's going to the end of the pin. So this way your two hands are still working simultaneously. You're not leaving one hand to just be holding the hairs. Once you turn the hairs, you're using your second hand to drag the hairs a little, just so it can go to the end of the pin. Because if you don't use your second hand, the hairs will not go to the end of the pin. You have to use your second hand to drag it to the end of the pin. That way to hook on the latch, and that way you can pass it through the hair without any inconvenience whatsoever. That's just basically a tutorial on how to do the single knotting. Taking it again, the first thing we're going to be doing is to be hooking the hair to the pin to the net, taking it under and out the net, not just ripping it like that, taking it under and out. After taking it under and out, the next thing you're going to do is going to form like a V shape. When you form like a V shape, you're taking the pin under the hair, like under the longer strand where your hand is. Just take it under it and hook it. Once you hook it, you're turning it. As you're turning it, you're using your hand where the hairs are. You're using that hand to kind of drag the hairs, so it's going to get to the end of the pin. That's where the latch is. Then once you're sure that it has latched very well to where the pin is, then you just pass it through the hair. I feel like this is the most English I can speak explaining this ventilation thing. But let me break it down for you. You use your pin, you hook the net. Mind you, where you're hooking your pin is the direction of where you want the hair to go. Then you're going to pick the hairs, then take it under and out. I'm emphasizing this under and out because it's a problem people face. So then you're going to form a V. Then from here, that is a very wrong thing. I'm showing you the wrong way to do it. If you're making it like that, so that's the wrong way to do it. You have to make it this, like this is very, very perfect. Like that is also a wrong way to do it, because you're going to lose the short strand. I used that I just lost that short strand and the strands became useless because I'm going to throw away that strand. Those are wrong ways to do it. You have to do it in a way that you're going to maintain like a balance, where you pick it. You pick the strand, basically pick the number of strands you want. Take it under and out. I'm emphasizing this under and out. Pick the strand, take it under and out. Once you take it under and out, it's going to form a V shape. Listen to my song, sing this thing in your ears until you get the hang of it. It's going to form like a V shape. Then you're taking it under the hairs. Take it under the hairs. You pin it. Then you're turning the pin to the direction of where your hand is. You're turning the pin to where the direction of your hand is. And once you're turning the pin, you're using your hand to drag the hairs. The hand where the hairs are, to drag the hairs a little so it can go to the latch of the pin, after which you pass it through the hole and you've made a single knot. I feel like that is basically the full thing about single knots, and I'm going to do it a little bit more times just so you can watch it and get the hang of it. Speaking of directioning, all the strands I'm currently ventilating, I'm all directioning it to my right hand side. It's my right hand side as I'm sitting down here. So whether it's your left or your right, you understand what I'm trying to say, sha. But all the strands I'm ventilating currently, I'm all directioning to my right hand side. So when I'm hooking my pin from the start, I'm hooking it at the right hand side. That way it's going to my right hand side. If you want the strand to go to your left hand side, hook the pin at the left hand side of the hole. If you want it to go down, hook it at, if you want it to go up, hook it at the upside. If you want it to go down, hook it at the downside. That is basically how to direction your hair. If you hook your pin to the left, it will not, the hairs will go to the left, it's not going to go to the right. And mind you, when you're doing the center parting, all the left side is going to the left and the right side is going to the right, just so it can give that sleek look at the middle. So directioning matters. I want you guys to really take note of directioning. Another thing I want you guys to take note of is how I am tightening the hairs. I'm going to explain that a little bit further when I'm doing double knotting. But basically, when you're knotting, if you just knot the hair without tightening it, it's going to be a very weak knot and it's going to have higher chances of loosening. So for you to tighten the knot, once you knot it and you pass it through the hole, what you're going to be doing is to be dragging it to the left, drag it to the left, drag it to the right, drag it to the left, drag it to the right. That way you're going to tighten it before you leave the hair. That's basically how to tighten it. That way, once you tighten it like that, the strands it tightens the knot and it makes the knot less likely to come out faster. Do you get? Okay, so the next type of knotting I'm going to be talking about here is double knotting. So if you can do single knotting, double knotting just basically entails tying it twice. Single knotting, you're tying it once. Double knotting, you're tying it twice. That's just basically how double knotting is. So for double knotting is a stronger version of single knotting. If you tie something once and you tie something twice, which is stronger? The one that you tie twice, isn't it? So that's the same logic in ventilation. Double knotting is like a stronger version of single knotting. If you tie it twice, double knotting is more durable. The pros of double knotting is more durable. It's basically it's more durable. It can be bleached. It can go through rigorous heat process and it's still okay. Double knotting is just basically stronger than single knotting. But the cons of double knotting is bulky. Double knotting is very, very bulky. See, I don't know. I feel like I sent a clip of how double knotting is, but double knotting is very, very bulky. Your hairline, your hair knotting, you cannot see your hair knotting. So double knotting is very, very visible. No matter how you want to tighten your double knot, as long as you're tying it twice, it's going to be very, very visible. And double knotting is long. So the thing is, when you're bleaching the closure, you're not bleaching the net. You are bleaching the knots. I don't know if you get that logic, but if it's for the net, you can easily use foundation or powder and tint it to your skin color. So you're not bleaching the net. It's a knot of the hair that you're trying to change to the color of the net. Does that make more sense? But basically, when you're bleaching a double knot, before the bleach gets to the end of the double knot, it's going to start loosening. So most times when you're bleaching a double knot, you just bleach the beginning of the knot and the bleach doesn't really get to the end of the knot. And basically, double knotting is not natural looking. That's what I'm trying to explain here. Double knotting is not natural looking. No matter if you bleach it, even if you bleach it, the bleaching cannot just get to from the beginning to the end of the knot because the knot is quite long. So double knotting is not natural looking. So double knotting is the knotting technique that most ventilators on the streets of Instagram use. That's the knotting technique that I started using because it's a way stronger knotting technique than a single knotting. But double knotting is not what pro ventilators use. Double knotting is not what factories use because double knotting, like I said, it's not the most realistic looking knot ever. And like I said before, when you're making lace frontals, lace closures, you're trying to imitate your hairline. So double knotting also is a yes on one hand, but it's a no on the other hand. If you are trying to achieve a strong looking knot, then you can go for double knotting. But if you're trying to achieve a natural looking knot, then double knotting is not it. If at this point you've not perfected your single knotting, I feel like you should go back and get it right before you come to double knotting. But double knotting basically is what you did in single knotting, but you're basically doing it twice. So the first tie is single knotting, then you're just going to do the exact same thing for double knotting. But the only difference is after tying it twice, you're going to tighten it very well, just so the knots don't come out as bulky as it normally should be. And that's basically what double knotting entails. You're going to pick the hole the way you're picking for single knotting. You're going to pick the hole. You're going to take your strand, your one strand, two strand, depending on the number of strands you're going to be using. Then you're going to take it under and out until it forms the V shape. After it has formed the V shape, you're going to pass it through the hole and then you tighten it first. This is your first hook. For single knot now, you're supposed to drop it, but for double knot, you're not dropping it. You're taking it back under again. You're hooking it, you're passing it through the hole, and then you're going to tighten it by taking it left, right, left, right. Then when you're sure it's tight enough, you drop it. If you're going to look closely now, this is a 2-time tie, so you're tying a knot on top a knot. That's just basically how double knotting works. I feel like if you've perfected your single knotting enough, then double knotting should not be a problem for you, because single knotting, you're tying it once. Double knotting, you're doing the exact same thing. You tie it once, you tie it twice. But the thing with double knotting that I see a lot of people doing is that they don't tighten their knots well enough. If you don't tighten your knots well enough, it's going to look very, very bulky. And one bulky knot may not make a difference. Two bulky knots may not make a difference. But when you have a whole full closure of very bulky knot, it's going to look very tacky. So you have to make sure you tighten your knots very well. And like I said, the way you can tighten your knot is by taking it left, right, left, right. Like you're using your both hands as you're dragging to the left, you're dragging to the right, just to make sure it's tight enough before you drop it. That's just basically how to do your double knotting. Okay, so split knotting. When it comes to split knotting, there are two types of split knotting. That's the single split knotting and the double split knotting. So for the single split knotting, it just basically entails taking one strand instead of, unlike this normal knot, single knot, that you take the two strands and you tie it. For split knot, you're taking just one strand to tie it. So for single split knot, the pros of single split knot, you're tying it just once. So obviously it's very natural looking, imitate your hairline. That's what we aim to achieve. So it imitates your hairline. That's the advantage of single split knotting. The disadvantage is that the two hairs are going in two different directions. So it's very, very hard directioning it. If you know what you're doing, you can still direction it, but the hairs have a mind of its own basically. So one strand is going this way, the other strand is going this way. So you can still use hot comb and this thing to direction it, but directioning is basically, when it comes to split knotting, it's a problem. That's the con of split knotting, the single split knotting. So like I said earlier, the way you hold your hair in normal single and double knotting is different from the way you hold your hair in split knotting. When it comes to split knotting, you're taking one strand instead of the two strands together. So you're not joining the two sides together. You know, I told you you're folding one side long, one side short. That's the same standard, but you're keeping like a space in the middle, and that space is so needed that you have to use your hand to emphasize that space. Like the way the space is, you see that I'm separating it very well. You have to use your hand to separate it and make sure that the space is very okay. So when you're picking it, like now, if you see the way I'm picking it now, you see that I'm picking just one strand. That's basically how single knotting works. Like you hook it, you take it, you're picking just one strand. So imagine if you join the strands together now, it's going to be very hard to pick just one side. I see that it's just one side. Like I was saying, I see that I'm picking just one side. So you have to be very, very intentional about separating it. And look at what I said. I see how one side is going left and the other side is going right. That is exactly how split knotting is, single split knotting is. Like the directioning can be so off. So when it comes to single split knotting, you just have to put that into consideration. When it comes to double split knotting, the direction is a little bit better, but single split knotting, direction is one side left, one side right, and that can also be very, very annoying. I don't know if you've gotten the hack of the split knotting, but basically it starts the way all that knot starts. You're going to hook your pin and then take it under and out until it forms a V shape. But yeah, you're picking just one side. I see that space in between it. That's the use of the space. Then you're picking just one side, after which you tighten it. This one mostly is already tightened. Doesn't really require to be need to be tightened, but nevertheless you have to still tighten it. I see the way the space is. Excuse me, I'm emphasizing this space because without this space, this split knotting is going to be very, very, very annoying for you. You have to make sure this space is there. So now once you're ventilating, you're just picking just one side, then you turn it from, you're picking from under also, then you turn it, then you bring it out and you drop. That's basically how the single split knotting works. I see that it's at the two opposite ends. That's exactly how you know single split knotting. It's always very, very scattered. No matter how you try directioning with your hand, it's still going to end up being scattered. For the next one I'm going to be talking about here is double split knotting. This is my personal favorite because this knot is everything and more, apart from the fact that it is annoying to do. But basically, double split knotting is a different type of knotting technique. It's like split knotting, but it entails. I will explain how it is. I don't think I need to use words to explain it here, but for the double knotting, the pros of double split knotting is that double split knotting is natural. It's as natural looking as the word natural looking. Like it's a very tiny knotting technique. So it imitates your hairline. That's what we are aiming to achieve. And as it imitates your hairline, it's very strong because single split knotting is not a strong knotting technique. You're tying it just once, so it can pull. The same way single knotting can pull, the same way single split knotting can pull because you're tying it just once. But double split knotting, you're tying it twice. But as you're tying it twice, it still looks like your natural look. It still looks like your hairline. So double split knotting is one knotting technique that I advise everybody to learn. The pros of double split knotting, it's imitate your hairline. It's as natural looking as possible. It's I don't know how to explain. It can be bleached. It can go through rigorous looking process, and it's very strong. It is durable, and it doesn't take much to do. That's basically the pros of double split knotting. For the con of double split knotting, it is for ventilators. It takes a lot to learn double split knotting. Like it doesn't really take a lot if you know what you're doing, but for beginner ventilators, it's double split knotting is kind of it takes a lot to master, but once you master it, you're gonna get it. That's just basically the thing about double split knotting. So personally, for me, I go for double split knotting. I advise everybody to go for double split knotting because it gives you everything you want in a closure in one knot. You can bleach it, you can color it, you can go through heat and rigorous heat processes, and it comes out good. It's still very much natural looking. The only downside to it is that it takes a lot of time to get done, and that downside doesn't concern the customer because all they want is a good looking closure. So that downside is to the ventilator, and if you know what you're doing too, you can still make it as fast as possible. So that's pretty much it. The same way you're holding your knot in a single split knotting is the same way you're holding your knot in a double split knotting. Just basically you have to leave that space in between just so the two sides can be separate. So for double split knotting is just split knotting into two steps. So the first thing, you're going to hook it, you're going to take your hairs and you see that space in between. So the first step, you're going to take the first strand, you knot it and drop. Then you're going to take the other strand in which you knot and you drop. Now the thing with double split knotting is that the hands where the hairs are is going to actively be at work, unlike your normal knotting. In normal knotting, the other hand is mostly just there, and when you're dragging it, you can easily use the hand where the pin is and drag it with the pin and it works. But for this normal double split knotting now, what they don't tell you is you have to use this second hand where the hairs are to drag the knot after the second knot. Like after this second knot now, if you use your pin, it won't drag. It won't drag. I think I didn't go. You have to use the second hand and drag it, and then you have to tighten your knot and drop it. That's basically how double split knotting works. I didn't fast forward this video just so you can see it step by step, like the process on how you're doing the double split knotting. You're not taking two strands at the same time. Once you take the first one, you knot it. You're not dropping it. You're going to still take that and use and take the second strand. That way, you've made a complete knot, and the knot is going to be very flat. It's going to be as flat as possible, basically. This is quite different from normal double knot, because normal double knot, you're taking the both strands and you're tying the both strands twice. But not for double split knot, you're taking the first strand, you tie it, then you take the second strand, you tie it. You're tying both of them separately. And if you tie one strand two times, you're not doing double split knotting. That is a different type of knotting entirely. But you have to take one strand, tie it, then take the other strand and tie it, after which you use your second hand to drag it, and then you drop it. The good thing about this double split knotting is based on your tying the both strands. Like you tie the first strand, then you tie the second strand. This one has a little bit more direction than normal split knotting. Like you're tying the both strands, so one strand is not left and the other strand is not right. Like so both of them have like the same direction, though it's not as directioned as normal double knotting will be, but it's a way better knotting. Like it's a way better knotting in terms of technique, in terms of how tiny the knot is, in terms of how natural looking it is, and in terms of direction compared to the other knotting. So most times I advise people to go for this double split knotting. Once you get the hang of it, it's going to be very easy thing. And the two hacks you should know when doing your double split knot is that first of all, you have to put space in the middle of your hairs. Like the way you're holding your hairs is the first step, and if you don't get the technique to hold your hair, that's the first step of failure for double split knotting technique. You have to be very conscious about how you're holding your hairs. That space in the middle is essential. If the space in the middle is not there, it's going to be hard to pick the strands individually because all of them will be joining together. So that space in the middle has to be there. And that thing you need to note about double split knot is that the hand movement. If you're trying to use your pin to drag the hair, it's not going to work. That is a different type of knotting entirely. So you have to do one strand, drop one strand, the other strand drop, then you use your second hand, that's the hand where the hairs are, to gingerly drag the hairs. That's just basically how this double split knotting technique works. So I came back here to come and explain something to you guys. In this particular video, the strands were not separated, like the two sides were not separated as normally it should be. If you notice it, and you notice it very well, you notice that when I was picking it, the two strands were together, and it was very, very difficult to pick for a normal split knotting. If you're doing normal single knotting or double knotting, it's going to be easier for you to pick this way. But if you're doing split knotting and the strands are together, that means the two sides of the folded hairs are together, you do not use your finger to separate it, it's going to give you a whole lot of issues. So that's one hack. That's one hack basically when you're doing this double split knotting technique. Can you guys see the difference between the normal double knotting and the double split knotting? The one on the right, left. The one on the right is the normal double knotting, while the one on the left is the double split knotting. Can you guys see the knotting difference? Can you see how one knot is very long, the other knot is very short? Can you see that one has two different directions, one goes in one particular direction? Basically, knowing double knotting and double split knotting doesn't take a lot. It doesn't take a so you can know it from afar. So thank you. I hope this video has been able to explain the 4 types of knotting techniques as best and as detailed as possible. So with this video, you should be able to pick the knotting technique you want to do. Pick the knotting technique that works best for you and works best for your customer. And this video should be able to teach you how to master the knotting technique, the various knotting techniques. And personally for me, like I said earlier, I tilt towards double split knotting. So if you cannot do double split knotting, you can do normal double knotting. But you see, normal split knotting and normal single knotting, just X them out of your list, because the cons of those knotting, they outweigh the pros. So with that being said, if you have any question, you can leave it down in the comment section, and I'll link a video I did earlier on this whole knotting, the whole ventilation process. So if you've not watched that video, you can go back and check it out and everything. So thanks for watching. I'll still make more videos on this same series, and if you have any video suggestion, you can leave it down in the comment section. Thanks for watching this video. I do hope you enjoyed this video. Please do like, share, comment, subscribe, share it to people that need this video, and yes, like this video, like it right now, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye.